Well, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. We are looking at Mark chapter 12, beginning with verse 41. We're in Passion Week. This is Tuesday of Passion Week. We've had all these events happening, and it's still not over. This is a very busy day for Jesus. He's been teaching at the temple courts. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, the priests, the elders, the teachers of the law, all of them have been coming to him, questioning his authority, trying to trick him with questions. Jesus has asked them a question to get them thinking about whose son is he, about how can David call him son, where he comes from his lineage, and then also call him Lord. Of course, we know it's because Jesus was fully human, fully divine, and it seems like they take a break, and they probably needed one after all that. And he and his disciples are sitting there. Of course, I've told you, the temple, the area around the temple, on the temple courts, or the Temple Mount, what we call it today, would fit 6 football fields. So there's a lot of room to hang around. So apparently they're resting, and around the temple courts they had offering receptacles. They were places where people could put their offering, and they were built to make a loud clanging sound. The money wasn't folding money like what we know today, and certainly didn't have credit cards, but they would use coins. And so people would bring for their offerings for the temple, their offerings for the priest, and different things, and offerings for the poor and all. They would come and they would put them in the receptacles. If they brought a lot of money, it would clang real loud as it would come down. There was one widow who brought what we know as the widow's mite. And I'm going to read that passage today. It starts with verse 41 of chapter 12 of Mark. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a fraction of a penny. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she out of her poverty. But in everything, all she had to live on." So everybody else was bringing all these coins, and we've already talked about the denarius with Caesar's image on it. But the widow gave a mite, and it was the smallest amount of money that you could have. And she puts in all she has. She puts in a very little bit. And Jesus commends this offering. In fact, there's only 3 offerings in the Bible that Jesus commends. And 2 of them are going to be on the same day. We'll see the other one on the same day we'll get into next week. But he commends the widow's mite and the 2 women who anoint him. One because of her much love, and the other one because of her very expensive gift with the perfume. Very interesting. Jesus commends someone giving all they have. He commends somebody giving out of love, and he commends somebody for giving a very expensive gift. And they're all women, and kind of an interesting thing that Jesus does when he commends it. One of the things that I think that we have to talk about when we talk about giving, it wasn't so much how much the widow gave, it's how much she had left. She gave what she had. In this case, it wasn't much. Our lowest denomination is a penny. And my understanding of the widow's mite wasn't even worth what we would consider a penny. But she gave all she had, and Jesus commended her for it. Commended her for participating. And it is interesting how I have seen God take small gifts and just multiply them. heard about a little girl in Philadelphia a long time ago, back in the 1900s. Churches were full, and you usually had to reserve a spot for it. And they started Sunday schools. And this was the early 1900s, I believe. And they would start Sunday schools. But your parents, they didn't have enough room. What a problem today they have, but they didn't have enough room for all the Sunday schools, and so they, if the parents didn't give to the Sunday school, to the buildings, the kids couldn't go to Sunday school. And there was a little girl who had gotten sick, and they'd called for the pastor to come, and the pastor did go visit her, and she was at her home, and she was very, very ill. And he visited her, and the little girl just talked about how she wanted to be able to go to Sunday school. And so then word got back to the pastor that she had died, and they had asked the pastor to do the funeral, which he did. And he went to the house afterwards. They were having a meal at their house. And the dad said, "I want to show you something." And he went, and he, from under the bed, he pulled out a box, and it had some pennies in it, just a few pennies, 13 pennies. And the little girl said she was saving money to help build more Sunday school space so that all the kids could go to Sunday school. And the pastor was so touched, he said, "May I have this box of pennies?" The next Sunday, he told the congregation what the little girl had done. And so it broke everybody's heart, and they all gave. They not only gave enough to build a new wing on for their Sunday school for the children, they gave enough to build a hospital. But they not only gave enough to build a wing on for the Sunday school for children and a hospital, they gave enough to start a university, start building buildings for a university. Today you can go to that university. It's Temple University in Philadelphia. And so one little girl's sacrifice got all of that. You can't tell what God might do with your offering. The big thing is you want to give it. And you want to give it generously, like the widow. You want to give it in love, like the one lady who anointed Jesus. And you want to give as expensive as you can with like the expensive perfume. You can't outgive God. And it's a wonderful way to live. Generosity is one of the real key factors of being a Christian. Well, we've been in Tuesday of Passion Week all this week, and we'll start next week. Very interesting passage about where Jesus kind of intermixes some future events with the second coming. And we'll start that on Monday. And Jesus is going to give some teaching to his disciples, we'll see, and we'll see some other things happening on Tuesday of that week. And we'll keep moving forward. It'll go a little faster, I think, after we get off Tuesday. But it's a blessed study, and I love Mark, and I love Mark for giving us a lot of information about Passion Week. Well, it's Friday, so I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope if you're in town, you'll come to church Sunday. Our church look like people are coming back. Our attendance is picked up. Love to see you Sunday. We'll be talking about baptism some more. So blessings on you, and I'll see you hopefully Sunday. If not Sunday, then I'll see you back here Monday.